know, another problem I have with this movie is, for those of you who've seen the movie, what got resolved? Like, what problems got resolved in this movie? There were actually very few problems introduced in the movie, and I think two of them got resolved. One being, Morbius has a bloodborne disease, wants his legs back. Alright, gets his legs back. Cool. Milo is evil and needs to be stopped. He gets stopped. Pretty, with a quickness, too. I distinctly remember Morbius creates like this poison, and his plan is, all right, I'm gonna use this poison on Milo. I'm gonna kill him, and I'm making the second one to kill myself because I don't want to be a monster and terrorize the city drinking their blood. And in the ending of the movie, we see Morbius fly out of the hole in the ground with his bats towards the camera, real grimace like. Meanwhile, it's already been established that artificial blood is slowly not doing it for him, which means he's eventually gonna have to go back to human blood. So we're back to square one. It's just this time Milo's dead. That's what the movie was for, to kill Milo. Poor Milo. Not even a thing. We never find out what Milo's motivations are for wanting Morbius. Well, as far as wanting Morbius on his side, I guess. We're left with a cliffhanger of a new vampire being arisen. Oh, actually, speaking of vampire, this might be reaching more into like comic territory. So forgive me if I'm just being ignorant, but so his powers don't make much sense. Or at least some of them don't. Hold on, let me rephrase that. There's certain aspects of his powers that don't make much sense. Let me give you a direct comparison. Spider-Man. Spider-Man gets bit by a radioactive spider, and now he can crawl on walls. He's super strong. He's got spider sense. He's very acrobatic. In one continuity, he shoots webs from his arms, which is actually a very useful tool, but I digress. it's still believable given the circumstance. He gets bit by a spider, he becomes spider-like. Spider-Man doesn't all of a sudden grow spider wings or something. And I guess in most continuities, he doesn't actually shoot webs from his arms, which is lame. He has to use web shooters. Spider-Man's abilities relate to being a spider. I'm not expecting this guy to grow like talons and shit. He's Spider-Man. He does spider things. Also, his abilities are not ever deemed as magical, more physical. His physical abilities are enhanced. Well, he has domain awareness as an ability. Essentially what that is. Some people would frame it as like future sight. Spider sense is what I'm talking about. In my opinion, it's just domain awareness. That's the most magical thing that Spider-Man can do. Alright, Morbius gets his powers by combining vampire bat DNA, with, I forgot what. They probably said it at some point. If they didn't, that's another gripe against the movie. And so with that DNA, he does get sonar. That's a bat power. He can fly. Okay, that's a bat power. All right. He drinks blood. Bat power. Talons. I'm not sure about strength, but he's a superhero. I'll allow it. Super speed, and like every time he moves, he has like this like dark force energy around him. Like, what is that about? Oh, and like I don't think they explain what it is, but like in the subway, like when he learns to fly, he does like that. Oh, like time kind of slows down, and like the air moves around him, and he like sticks his hand out and feels like the air. I guess. What is that about? Like, what is like? That's not. Is that bat powers? Speaking of bat powers, again with like the lack of setup in this movie. Maybe it's explained better in the comics. If this is how Morbius gets his powers, how the fuck did he expect this to go? The premise is that Morbius needs something to cure his blood disease. He's like missing a part of his DNA that most normal people have. And so his bright idea is to get the DNA of vampire bats known for sucking blood. how in the flying fuck does that at all relate to curing your disease? In fact, I don't know any any logic would dictate that at most you gain a craving for blood, which he does. There's nothing about that that says, it's gonna cure my disease. It's gonna fix the missing part of my DNA. This bat DNA, from these bats that are known for sucking blood, and that's what they're known for, is somehow going to cure my disease. I don't. Someone in the comments help me out. I don't understand it. If that's how it is in the comics, that's stupid. I'm sorry. There's no other way about it. Like, this feels like this felt like a DC movie, to be honest. Like a low budget DC movie. Not in terms of quality. Definitely not. But like the way it presented itself, like the darker tone it took on, the morality crisis the hero has, felt more like a DC movie than a Marvel movie. Maybe this was like Marvel's answer to some DC hero or villains. It felt so off. Else, I know this is actually like a Sony movie as well, but like, nothing about this movie felt right. In fact, you probably could have labeled this movie like, if this movie started with like, welcome back to Bitches Fighting, and just cut to like the Milo versus Morbius parts, this movie would have made more sense. This movie, I do know what this movie is supposed to be. So during the like ending stinger, I didn't stay for like the after credit stinger. The end of the movie stinger. I didn't stick around for the like after credit scene. So maybe there's something more. But the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming, the movie I just watched actually, just suddenly gets transported into a cell in this movie. Which is I guess it's supposed to be a different like universe. It's just so bizarre. Why? How? Actually. So I guess Sony is supposed to be setting up their own like Spider-Man universe, but like it kind of makes it feels like this entire movie was just to set up their Spider-Man universe, which is stupid. Like this movie was there just to introduce you to Morbius, and it did a terrible job of doing so. So like when he shows up later in other movies, you already know who he is and what he's been through. But to be honest, you probably could have just dropped Morbius in. If he was gonna have this like mediocre of a backstory, you probably could have just like dropped him in with like a quick blurb, but like, hey, this is that's Morbius. He's like a vampire guy and he drinks blood. He's super strong. Fight him. Cool. Done. Deal. This video's been a bit longer than, or at least this recording has been a bit longer than I would have liked it to be. I gotta get to bed because it's like 7 o'clock in the morning now, and I need to get to work in about 5 hours. I don't know where I'm going for. I guess I'm going to like the Spider-Man movies next. The rest of them. Well, I gotta see. Okay, I gotta see. I'll figure something out. I'll be back with another movie.